Hey everyone, this is Megha and I'm a watercolor artist based in Bangalore, India. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, I'm going to use this round brush and we are going to paint two different styles of lavender. I'm going to use wet on wet and wet on dry techniques both to paint some lavender. So here I have my papers ready, my brush is here. And let's take out the colors that we will be using. So the color palette will be mostly the green, a little bit of blue and mostly the purples. So whichever color set you have, you can pick these colors. If you are new here, then don't forget to subscribe as I post new videos every Friday. My tutorials are both beginner friendly as well as expert level. If you have never tried watercolors, there are lots of videos which are absolute beginners, so do check them out. Other than that, I also have classes on Skillshare which you can watch for free using the link I have given in the description. And along with that, I also have lots of free guides and resources related to watercolor which have also been linked in the description below, so don't forget to check that out. Okay, so I have the purples and the blue ready here, and I'll also take out some sap green. To make the green of the lavender leaves, we can mix a little blue in the sap green to get that bluish touch in it. So colors are here, my brush is here. Don't forget 2 jars of water and some tissue to soak up the extra water or paint that you might have. Alright, so let's start with the wet on dry first, and I'm going to use the tip of the brush and we are just going to paint dry. That means we are not putting any water on the paper, and I'm just gonna take some green, and using the tip of the brush I will just start painting a few stems. Make sure that your brush doesn't have too much water and it has a really nice point, because we are going to do really thin stems. So for that I'm just going to do a few random lines on the paper. Make sure that you have a steady hand and your lines come up nice and thin. So I'm resting my hand nicely on the table and then just moving it like this to get this thin strokes. We don't want any straight lines, so leave them a little curve and make them a little bit randomly here and there, just like this. Now if you want the bluish green color for the lavender leaves and stems, then you can mix a little blue in the sap green to get that shade. We will try that for our next one, and maybe a little bit here also in the leaves. So just to get that bluish green color, we can do 3-4 shades for this one and try it. And the leaves are thin and not very long, so that's what I'm doing here, making the leaves like that. And while painting this, make sure that you are using 100% cotton paper, 300 GSM watercolor paper for nice effect, especially when we do wet on wet. 100% cotton paper is needed, otherwise your paper will all crumple and get wrinkles. So let's just move ahead with this one and do a few more leaves here and there on the stems, and then we'll start with our flowers. So just thin leaves, so I'm just using this very simple brush stroke, starting with the tip, pressing it and lifting up, and doing very short and thin leaves. Let's mix a little bit blue, as that is more closer to the color of the lavender leaves. You can paint as many leaves as you want, but try to keep the leaves on the lower half of the stem. If you want, you can also refer to the picture of a lavender, but we are not doing anything realistic today. In both the techniques, wet on wet and wet on dry for the lavender, I'm just going to use a loose style for both of these. I'm just putting bluish leaves also. So I'll start with the flowers. Again, the same technique, using the tip of the brush, and you can use whichever greens or purples you want. Before that, I'm just adding a little bit of green here and there on the leaves, just to keep it a little natural and give that greenish touch also, although this is not needed because usually the lavender is full on the stem, so you hardly see any green. So you can skip this if you want, and then we'll be using the purples a little bit. And just using the tip of the brush, what we'll do is we'll put random dots, and then again, to vary the pigment, you can use less water and more water just to create a variation. So I'm just activating the paint here a little bit so that it will be easier for us to use it. So just using the tip of the brush, I'm just putting random dots here and there. Just like this, you can mix match a little bit of blue, a little bit of dark purple or violet, or a little bit of the rose purple or pinkish purple, and then just make dots on the stem like this in like a longer flower. But make sure you don't make it really broad because lavenders are really long and thin. So if you want, you can refer to a real picture of lavender just to get an idea how to paint the flower. And as you go towards the top, you can narrow it a little, so it's a very narrow shape on the top, like a triangle. And the same way we will paint all the flowers for our lavenders, for our wet on dry technique of painting the lavender flowers. I do have lots of beginner flower tutorials. If you want to check them out, then do hop on to my page, to my channel page, and look out for those videos. They are really fun to try, and lots of different techniques, lots of simple ones as well advanced ones, so do check them out. Okay, so that's about it. You can just keep on adding a little bit here and there wherever you want to fill in. And basically this is just a very simple technique which is beginner friendly, and you can easily try it. You can also paint it along because this is real time, so you can just paint along with me and try to practice this technique. Now I'll just add a little bit here and there, and then okay, let's add some splatter as well here. So just to give it that extra touch, I really love putting splatters on my flower paintings. It's really fun to do. Oops. Okay, so now let's move on to our next one, which is wet on wet. So again we will be painting similar kind of lavenders but with a different technique. I think I need to change my paper as well, so just give me a few seconds and we'll hop on to the next technique. Okay, so I hope you are having fun so far, and we finished our wet on dry, and now we are doing wet on wet. So as the name suggests, I'm taking some clean water and just dampening the paper. Make sure that you don't make any puddles, and at the same time your paper is not very dry. Then our technique is going to be same as before. So for this one I'm going to use a little more bluish green, which is closer to the real lavender plant. So I'm just mixing in a little blue just to get that perfect shade that I want to use. Yeah, I think it looks good. So again on the wet paper I'm going to do stems, and this time I'm going to we are going to do a little vase also. So you have to paint the stems as if they are coming out of a vase. So from one point they are coming out and going up like this in a V shape. So just like this I'm randomly painting, and the paper is moist so they are softening up, which is alright. Next up I'm painting the leaves very thin and nice as we did before. So it's the same technique, but it looks very different because of the wet on wet. You can see how it is becoming soft and they are just blending into each other. The colors are bleeding. So this one is really different, but it has a beauty of its own. Both of them are different. I would suggest you to try both of them, but at the end of the day, whichever you like, you can continue to paint in that style. And in the same way as we did before, I'm just dropping purple on blue, but again in a thin line, just on the line. In this one I'm not doing the green part on the stem, I'm just using the colors. And be very careful because it's wet, so don't make bigger dots, otherwise it will scatter everywhere. Again your paper has to be damp, no puddles, and if it is also very dry, then this effect will not come, in which these dots are just blending and becoming so soft. So just continue to add this on the line, and in a while we'll do the vase also and a little bit touch up also. I really love how the light purple or the pinkish purple is mixing in and giving such a beautiful glow. So I'm going to add a little bit more of that. You can already see how soft and pretty this one looks, and it is so different from the first one that we did. Okay, so let's hop on and do a very light glass kind of a vase. So I'm just going to do a round one here. I am not drawing. If you want, you can also draw if you want it to be perfect. I'm just okay with it, so I'll just try my hand with the brush. If there is anything to correct, I'll just correct with the brush. So you can see it's a little bit different from this side, so let's try and make it a little bit symmetrical like this. And the focus is on the flowers, so I'm not going to stress too much about it. Just taking some more water and then just softening the outlines, just like this. A little bit on the stems as well, just to make them up, just to make them look as if they are in water. And then adding a little bit more blue here, and then very less. Again, it's wet on wet because I'm working on the wet surface. Just spreading it and lifting a little bit color from here and there, painting the base of the vase. Make sure that you're blending in and softening the edges, as it's wet on wet and we don't want any hard lines. Also picking up a little more color to give it that glassy look, and I think I'm done. I don't want to overdo it. The soft and this bleeding and blending, and I'm loving it. That's the most beautiful thing about watercolors. The wet on dry also has its own charm, but for sure my favorite is the wet on wet. Let me know in the comments which technique was your favorite and which one are you going to try. And don't forget to check out the other links. Don't forget to subscribe. I post new videos every Friday. I hope you enjoyed painting both the versions of Watercolor Lavender with me, wet on wet as well as wet on dry. I will see you next Friday. Bye bye.